and to get on stage without even using a diuretic, or in some cases, maybe there is a very small amount used, but I haven't used one personally or my clients in like the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've done preps definitely like that. And I think speaking on that peaking process and going back to drugs that you could probably leave off would be a vast majority of diuretics. And in bodybuilding, this is probably one of your highest risks, where we see a lot of people have, unfortunately passed away from electrolyte shifts and causing cardiac issues. So like these rapid ways of like trying to drop water weight for if you're trying to make a weight class or even peak. I think there's a lot of new thoughts coming out in mastering your peak just through the manipulation of just carbohydrate and water, and to get on stage without even using a diuretic, or in some cases, maybe there is a very small amount used, but I haven't used one personally or my clients in like the past 3 years. And I get pretty peeled. Now I have a proclivity
now, man.
I can do it. Like I stay lean, but there's the individuals that the round bubbly guys that tend to hold more water. I think there is more to be had with them, but probably that is to come with better PED management, and probably giving them a better timeline to assess that. But as far as like some of the high risk diuretics, I don't think those should have a place.
And then you probably also didn't stop the growth hormone leading into the show.
That's me. One day out, and Olympia's a 2-day show, right? So every night was still banging away on 8 IUs of growth hormone. I only get worse when I take it out, and if I lower testosterone, I get worse as well. So I am that guy, but that goes to like going back to like a true coach is assessing the need, and we don't go off of any like cookie cutter approaches. Like you always cut tests 3 weeks out or whatever it may be, your growth hormone comes out at this point. Some guys need those things to stay in. Some guys need those to fully come out. And that's where coaching should be happening on the PED front, is assessing along the way and learning that individual's ability to what they need in their stack.
So if you had a time machine and you could go back 5 years to tell yourself, like, this is what I'm doing now, would you be surprised 5 years ago of what has progressed in your own career? Because like a lot of things are changing in the last 5 years. I mean,
Sure.
We see it at the pro circuit. I see it with my clientels. We're all introducing new concepts into the bodybuilding space. And I think 5 years ago, we couldn't have imagined where we are now as PED educators. It's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, a lot has. Like looking back to what was kind of first done. Luckily, like I've always been, and probably like all of you, you're always a mindful bodybuilder, and so you're always intrigued on how and why things are working. And there was a lot of question marks back then, because I had coaching, and you do what coach says, but you still want to understand why it's working. And there's just a lot of gaps there where I couldn't really explain. And I think having the current John go back and be like, here's the explanations behind those, you'd be like, that makes so much sense. And it would be like a light bulb go off moment. And then I would look like super huge and be like, oh, well, you're big, so it must make sense. And then I would listen to Big John.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then things you're doing now, did you think you would never do? Or you're still within the confines of, doing everything responsibly, and you don't see anything that you're doing particularly now that would be considered risky if you thought about it maybe a couple of years ago, where you're pushing the boundaries of what you would consider healthy?
Well, I turned pro when I was 30, and that same year I went into a gym in New Jersey, and there's an old pro there. He's like, how long are you going to do this for? It'll kill you, right? And I was like, man, when I'm 35, like that's it. Like I won't be a master's bodybuilder. Like that's where I'm cutting it off. And here I am, I'm 38 and I'm still in bodybuilding. And I think my health management has advanced so far compared to what it was, probably more so than even the changes in stack design, that even doing what would be deemed probably back then as a riskier approach in my eyes. However, the health markers and everything tracking has even improved. So I think that's been some greater advancements. I mean, what we have information wise is health monitoring and interventions earlier on. So looking back to what I'm doing from what I was, I don't think it would be too shocking. At least to me, like my weighing out where I'm at from a competitive status, and now that this is a career aspect for me, and it seems justifiable. I know from outside, it all depends on your perspective, that you very well might think like this is still not worth it. But at least in my eyes, like I'm living out like a dream life. And if that comes with an earlier demise of a few years off my life, I'd rather have lived at the peak of the mountain than just looking at the base and being content. Because I've had that life of working a 9 to 5, working a clinical job in the hospital, trying to make bodybuilding work. And that is not living for me. And I absolutely would take the risk of what I live currently at. But I'm not stupid, as stupid as I could be. It's still stupid, right? But I just try to mitigate those risks. So just because you are pursuing this doesn't mean you can't do it with intelligent design and thought process.
Yeah. Now, that's, I think, a great way to close off this podcast. What I would like to ask all of you is, we're all basically at the highest level we can be, right? We're not all pros. I mean, I never even competed. But I think right now, at this current point in time, we're all at our peak. What does it take for you to be at your peak? I want to start with Kurt. What does it take right now to be at your absolute best shape you've ever been in? Just as a quick elevator pitch.
80% compliant with diet, 80% compliant with my diet. So my diet doesn't really change much throughout the year. I do leave room so I can have fun with my kids and my wife. I do cardio every day. That was an influence I got a lot from AJ Sims and from talking to John when I saw him in March. That kind of changed my mind about adding cardio back in. With the exception of that last cycle that I read for 8 weeks, I just test and GH. Like I'm trying to use a lot less. I don't need as much to hold anymore. The GH has really been groundbreaking for me, where it allows me to use a lot less anabolics to keep the look. Sleep. I'm very focused on sleep and health, like fruits and vegetables, supplementation. My diet is not chicken and rice. Like that's honestly, I might have had rice once this week. I try to eat a variety of food. Seeing doctors, getting lab work. I think just the whole approach to it. I don't think anything fancy. I think guys might overcomplicate this stuff. A lot of it's just time and consistency of just doing those healthy things for long periods of time.
Yeah, true. Dean?
Very similar to Kurt, I guess, from a physical standpoint. Just for me, I'm a little bit limited now being celiac, so my diet is basically chicken and rice. But not to discount, the importance of antioxidant and mitochondrial health. That's what I think my biggest takeaway now of being able to stay on top both mentally and physically. My days probably this year was the last what if of being a competitive bodybuilder. So now it's just a matter of maintaining peak physical health for my own benefit and also my family's, and then focusing more on, I guess, mental aspects, where that's work, engagement, consults, and everything else, all the other sort of projects.
All right, John.
Yeah, to just maintain this peak that I'm at, it's created just a lifestyle that's just been catered to around being as successful as possible in bodybuilding and in my business endeavors, which I just try to wake up every day and make sure that every step forward and foot forward is moved towards trying to just enjoy the process every moment along the way. And so if there's now work or whatever it may be, relationships that aren't leading me to that goal and that success of what I deem successful was vision outcomes. It's more of this ultimate happiness in life, and those just aren't in place anymore. And so a lot of time is spent in having relaxation time or enjoying work tasks and projects that I like to take on, and excited for training and having my training reflect around something that's sustainable, or my diet reflect around something that's enjoyable that still aligns with my goals. And I love my bodybuilding lifestyle. And I think that's what keeps pushing me forward and being successful, especially as long as I've done it. And so I think just trying to move away from these cookie cutter type approaches that make bodybuilding miserable have made it more enjoyable, sustainable, consistent, and that drives the ultimate result. But enjoying and sniffing the flowers along the way. And I used to think bodybuilding was about, lone wolf, hood up, in the dark gym. And it's also about trying to build relationships and enjoy that along the way. There was a show I was at where there's two 12ers competing and there's barely anyone in the audience. I was just thinking, man, if I was here alone competing, there wouldn't be any joy in it. And it's truly like trying to enjoy the people you're with along that. So I'm trying to be more in the moment, and that's and harness and make these relationships improve. So that's what's helped me become more of my peak in my physique.
Yeah. So for myself, I started bodybuilding when I was 15, and I always made sure that I stayed in love with the process. So whether that's the nutrition or the supplementation or the training or the PEDs later on, I just make sure that I really enjoy it, but I don't let it detract from business or relationship. And I found that if I really go 100% on bodybuilding, that it detracts from business or relationships. This is one of the reasons why I never wanted to compete, because I know how I am mentally and going into that single direction. So I always made sure that I have a little bit of balance and perspective. That doesn't mean I don't treat it like a full-time job, the health and the nutrition and all that stuff. But I've found a nice balance for myself where I get the maximum enjoyment out of the bodybuilding thing in all aspects of it, in relation to all the other stuff that I need to do. Because again, I don't make money bodybuilding directly. I make money talking about bodybuilding for other people to stay healthy. And I got typecast a little bit on YouTube, so I'm basically a professional drug user now, where I do the research, use the drugs, and then talk about it and make money somehow. So that's the weird situation I find myself in. But for me, I found that the most enjoyable way is the most sustainable way. And that's why I still love it up until now, being 41 years old, having been doing this for 25 years. I never took a break unless I was forced to, and I don't think I ever will. I just love it too much.